I recently shared the gorgeous Designer Boss Summit Slumber Party homepage that we created. The lovely Anna Dower designed it and I built it in Divi. And I had some questions about how I created some of the cool like overlapping icons across like different sections and rows and things sort of like poking out. We've got a few of them. Also, if I refresh the page, you'll see that I've got like an animation effect on some of them, like these like spin as the page loads. So you can see it spin, and if we go down, you'll see obviously all of those animations, but there's another logo just down here that's going to spin. There we go. So I'm just going to show how I did that in Divi, because it's not that tricky. It's just learning how to use sort of the different positioning and negative margins and stuff like that. So here's, I've just created a copy of the page so we can play around with it, and I'll show you what I've done. So these are obviously set up as two separate images. So I've just popped an image module here that's just set normally. And then I have this one here, and you can see this little icon in the top right corner there. That's because I've used positioning, I think it's called. So let's go and have a look. So sometimes they're a bit hard to click on these ones when you've set them up this way. So I just like to right click and, let me just make myself a little bit smaller so we can see everything. So you can hover over and you can go right click and go to layer. And then you can find it. So here it is here, this image. So that's just been set up as an image. And when I click on this, it should open the settings. There we go. Just took a while because I'm recording probably. Okay, so there's the image. What we can do is I'm just going to go filter here and go modified styles. So we'll just only show the modified styles. Let's move this over here. So you can see I've aligned it to the center with the 100. Okay, I set max width, and it does change on different screens so that it's not so big on mobile and things. I've set the animation to roll, so that's what makes it spin as it enters the screen. I've also, I've disabled this one actually on mobile and tablet just because it just made it sort of easier, less busy and stuff, so that's not there. But this is the main one we want to look at, which is the position. So I've set it to absolute. By default it will be just default, which is relative, but I've set it to absolute, and I've also set a vertical offset. So rather than just, so absolute makes it go to like the absolute top, like or bottom or the sides or whatever, and then you can do an offset based on where it is, and I'll show you that in a second. I've also done a horizontal offset. I must have changed this Z index so that it appears above this potentially. Maybe that's why I've changed that, but I'm going to show you where the position is. So if we go to advanced position, then this is where I've set it. So if it's just default, you'll see by default, it's just the images stacking on top of each other like that. That's what they usually do. But if we change it to absolute, then you can select where you want it to go. So I've done these offsets, so it's not 100% going where it should go. But you can see how it changes around, right? So I'd set it to here, and then I'd done a vertical offset. So if I just delete this out, you'll see, so I've pushed it down 28 pixels, and then I did this horizontal offset again. If I cut that out, you'll see that it's moved in as well. So I'm pushing it outside the boundaries of the row, because if we hover over, you can see this is the row and it's pushing outside those boundaries, and that's by doing those offsets. So setting it to absolute means that it's almost like this image doesn't realize that this one exists anymore. It's not pushing it anywhere. So this image is now getting pushed to the top, and then that's in the app. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me show you another example, and I've done it a little bit differently, a bit further down. So I've also got this one here. You'll notice when you do these absolute positionings and things, sometimes it can, when you're in the builder, it'll do a random thing like this because it's trying to figure out what to click on. So again, I usually just like right click on whatever I can and go to layer, and then I can see the layers panel. I can open up this row, the one column row, and then there's the image module. So the reason I put this one in a row and not just like, so what I've done is I've changed the positioning of the row as well. I've done absolute positioning on the row, not just the module. And the reason for that is I want it to overlap a section. What we had is we just had this overlapping the image within the row. We actually want this image to overlap a section, and therefore I needed to put it in the row. It just made it easier to put it in the row. You can work around these things and not have them in a row, but I just find it's easier for me. So that's what I've done there. So let's go into the row again. I'm going to right click and go view modified styles. So that's another way of getting to exactly the same thing as if we just go into the row settings. Come on, it's taking its time. There we go. Filter, modified styles. Let's go up here so we can see it all. So I've set, I probably didn't need to set that padding, but oh yeah, I did on the row. So I want the row to be as small as possible. So I've reduced the padding, because default it usually has 30 pixels padding top and bottom of the row. I've set the row to absolute positioning and right to the top. So what that's done is, rather than stacking the row, you know, within the confines of the padding within the section, it's just jumping it to the outside of the section. So I've just set it to the top center there, and I've done no but for the module, which is going to be hard to click on, so I'm going to go to layer again. This is my friend when it comes to absolute positioning, because it's a little bit tricky to click on things, as you can see. So we'll go to the image settings, and again I'm going to show you here what I've changed. So modified styles, so I've aligned it to the right. I've set a max width, again aligned to the right. And for this one, okay, so I did transform rather than absolute. Yeah, I've kept the position relative. So transform is another, it kind of does a similar thing. Like you can get a similar effect using the transform and the move. Translate. I call it move, but it's called translate, which again, that moves where it is. You can see by default, it's sitting here, and I've moved it negative 43 pixels and 96 pixels, and it's gone up. So if I, for instance, remove this, come on, do it. There we go. You'll see how it's just jumped down. So I'm going to undo that and put it back. I love when I record and it just decides to go really slow. There we go. So that's what I've used with the transform there. So I'm going to show you where that is. So let me remove that, and it'll just reset all of the module with all the options. And so before, when we went to position, that was under advanced, and then we had position. The transform is actually under design, but again, you go down towards the bottom and we've got transform. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do here. You can actually scale it. I like to use this transform scale for like hover effects. So I might just set on hover. I might just have it change to, like, I usually do like 104%. I'll make this change to 104% only on hover. And that's really cool for like buttons or links or things like that. I like to do that. But I haven't done that this time. I just had to turn off my video because it was making everything very delayed. What we did for this one is we just used transform and then translate and moved it. So just pushed it out the side there, and that's how I've got it to sort of overlap that section. So let's have a look at another one. So this one here, again, I've used sort of negative margins and position, or not negative margins specifically. I think I used the absolute positioning on this one. Let's have a look. So cool, I can select it. So I'm just going to double click on this to open it up, and we can see what we're doing. So essentially I've added this image. It's in this column here, and I've used, okay, so I used transform for this one rather than position. Oh no, I used positioning. I've used a few things. Oh yeah, because now I know. I used transform because I made it turn, because originally it's like the smiley face is up the right way. I also set the roll animation on it, but I've done absolute positioning and then offset it. So rather than just absolute, which is position, I've set absolute and I've put it over there. I've also then offset it even more, so it's pushed out even further, like to the top and to the side. So that's how I did that one. And then there's one more further down the page, which I did similar to the overlapping row, I believe, of the lollies. Let's have a look. Yes. So this one here, again, it's just the same as the row we did above. Once I've got one right, I literally just duplicate the row and then swap out the images and maybe adjust a little bit because, you know, of the sizing of the image might be a little bit different. But I've done the same thing where I've set, the row to be absolutely positioned and then put the image module in there. So I've also added an animation to this one too, so it does a little rolly animation on enter. So hopefully that makes sense. I might just quickly show too, just in case anyone doesn't know where the animation is. So to set any animations, you just go underneath transform, you'll see animation, and then you can just, there's a whole bunch of sort of ones to choose from, and you can play around with these settings if you want to, but usually just the default's pretty nice. So this is another one too I might just quickly show, is to make these all sort of turning on angles. What you can do there is, again, it's just the transform under design, transform, and then we have rotate. And so I've just set a very slight rotation, like of like 3 degrees either way, to make them go on angles like that and look really cute. So hopefully all those little tips are helpful, and I would love to see how you implement them in your designs.